All right. So I'm just wondering, like, we both went to UWC. So far, do you think there is like some form of like connection or between like Earlham and UWC when it comes to the values and the missions that there's?
Mm, I see. I think so. I think in UWC, they try to get us to, instead of focusing solely on academics, they try to get us to do, extracurricular activities and all these things, right? A kind of holistic approach to education, which I think is also similar to Earlham. And then Earlham also has where we can try out so many different classes, right? And try out a number of different things before we have to pick something. So I think those are two things that UWC and Earlham have in common.
I think it would be really great if you could share some of these activities so that we can brag about UWC. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like some of the activities that, for example, that you did to when you were during your time like at UWC that you think maybe they are connected to or they are similar to the ones that are offered here at LM. For example, I can think of like Dance Alloy.
Okay.
UWC you had something more or less like that. Like
Okay, I see. One example I can give is, or if I would start off generally, there is a lot of ways to be involved on campus. So back in UWC, one of the things that I was able to be was like a house leader. We call them bomber leaders. The houses were called bombers. And so I was able to do that for a bit. And then here I'm also doing a convener. We're actually we're both conveners for ASA, which is the African Student Association here at college. And so that's pretty cool that some of those things continue. What about you? What?
So I would say during my time at like UWC, just like what you mentioned earlier, like we didn't really like focus only like solely on academics, but then we also had like other activities. For example, in my UWC, we would call it like CAS, standing for like creativity, activity, and service. And then here at Earlham, I think we also have something like that, but then it's now like the EPIC centers, where you can find, for example, the EPIC for like global education or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I remember, like in my first year at UWC, I was part of they would call it the bancas. So what we would do would just like go and then would take care of like horses which were abandoned.
Yeah.
And then here I think we have like those things, like if you connect with like the center of like
question
sustainability
so is it CL environmental environmental leadership and sustainability.
And then I would say for UWC there are about like people from about like 90 different countries, right? And then so it meant that we had like some form of like organizations representing, for example, maybe the African students, representing maybe students from Asia and stuff. And then I found that like here at LM we also have more or less like the same thing, which is pretty cool. For example, there's like the ASA, we have BSU, we have what's SASA,
SASA,
exactly.
SASA.